Hey guys, welcome to ADR Tech Reviews, and today I'm standing. I'm not sitting anymore, and that's the background of all my stuff, higher level than what I'm usually doing when I'm sitting down. But today we're going to be going over a topic that has been out and raging for a very, very long time, and most of you probably have gotten into it and put in a few comments about it. Not on my videos most likely, but on other videos and given other people advice on said topic. If you can't already tell from the title of this video, today I'm going to be going over Intel versus AMD. And mostly what I'm going to be doing in this video is explaining why I have an AMD system. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to start going in on a few points on what I have and why I have it. So number one main reason why I have an AMD based system is the cash. I can't make it rain, guys. I don't have a lot of money. What I have is for decently priced things, which will give me the best performance for the price that I bought. So if you've been following me on my channel for a while, you would know that I started off with the AMD X4 760K. That was the first CPU that I started off, and since the beginning I've been getting help from AMD. And that does not make me an AMD fanboy. Just because they helped me on my channel, they're really big help, and I really admire them for that. Just because they help me doesn't mean I'm not going to be honest and say that some of their products aren't their best when it comes to price per performance. But when it comes to gaming, something like their FX line is actually a very good choice compared to something other people use, for example the 4770K. And I'll bring the performance aspect on it on a different point number 2, but we're going to stay on point number 1 for a little bit. I'm going to bring up the fact that the Intel 4770K right now is priced on Newegg. I need to check my monitor because I don't know the price by memory. It's priced at $345 on Newegg. That's a lot of money. In fact, that's more money that I spent on my entire system the first time I built it. Now I have more upgrades and such, but when it comes to my overall price, that's more than half. And on the AMD side, one of their high-end processors is the FX 8350, and for that is $180. You can see the price difference there. It's around less than half of the price of the 4770K. So you guys can see the price difference between these two CPUs. What I had in my system originally was the 760K. I paid $80 for that. With overclockability and performance, I didn't really suffer anything in games, but what was really pulling me down was my graphics card that I had to get on the cheap because I didn't have one. Right now, if you guys have been following me as well, I have an A10 7850K paired up with an R9 270. Not a very good pair up, but when it comes to the best CPU performance with, it's the newest architecture, and with the GPU, I've been pretty happy with it. I've been getting very good frame rates on BF4. I play BF4 60 frames per second on high, and you can see that I have no issues with it. Into point number 2, price per performance. For $344, I would expect something like 10, 20, maybe even 30 FPS more on games. But games don't really take up much of the CPU usage. Games aren't CPU intensive, especially in this day and age. When you go into games more like Arma 3 and, for example, the newest coming up, Star Citizen, which is very much in alpha, you'll realize that a better CPU will help, but not too much. Something like BF4, which is a very popular game still at the time, does not take up CPU usage as much as all those games out there. For example, here we go. I'm using some benchmarks from techspot.com. I'll put the actual link in the description. And looking at the benchmarks, they're using an R9 290X with a resolution of 1920 by 1200. I haven't really seen that resolution before. But using DirectX 11 on high, on the 4770K, they get an average of 97 frames per second on stock clocks. 97 frames per second is way above 60 frames per second, which is the max that your eyes can see. I know some people can notice the difference between 144 and 60 frames per second, but it really isn't much of a difference. Using the same graphics card, using the 8350 at stock clocks, their performance goes up to 96 frames per second average frame rates. That's 1 FPS less than the 8350 on the 4770K. For $344 for 1 FPS more, I don't see any sense when it comes to that. Alright, so after realizing the average FPS and the price of both these CPUs, I went ahead and did a little bit of math, as you guys can probably not see there with my horrible handwriting. I went ahead and did a little bit of math on what the FPS per dollar was on each of these CPUs to see what was better when it comes to price per performance. And for most of you probably watching this, you probably already know what my answer is going to be. Alright, so seeing that the 4770K has a $345 rounded price point with 97 frames per second, I realized that it does have a rounded total of 0.28 FPS per dollar. On the 8350, on the other hand, it's priced at $180 with 96 frames per second average. The average frames per second per dollar was at 0.533333. You can tell that's much more than the 4770K. But 4770K is still out there and a lot of people still use it. Although this is for another video, I'll go ahead and hint this out here. The 4770K beats out the 8350 when it comes to video rendering and editing. I use my PC not only for gaming but also for video editing and rendering, and it does take me quite a while to edit and render videos, although I don't have an 8350 on my PC. The 4770K has a purpose out there, but if you're just going to go ahead and game, 8350 is a perfect choice for you. It's going to last you a while with 8 cores, and you're really going to have no disadvantage when it comes to someone with the 4770K in their system. So those are my 2 points when it comes to why I have an AMD system rather than an Intel system at the moment. I'd rather spend more money on a GPU rather than a CPU, and it really translates into my build itself. In the comments, what do you think is better, Intel or AMD? Why do you choose either? Why do you have an Intel system or why do you have an AMD system? Are you happy with your AMD or Intel system? I want to hear from you guys. All your opinions are important to me, just as my opinions may influence you when it comes to your buying experience and your new PC. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and share my video. It really helps a lot. Go ahead and check out my Facebook and my Twitter to catch up with me on social media. I do post a little bit more on Twitter than I do on Facebook. And watch my other videos. I do have a bunch of unboxings and a lot of reviews. Alright guys, see you in the next one.